This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to the IIBA Tampa Bay, Florida chapter study group for February 2022. This is our 20th study group. We've been working through the BABOK, doing test questions, and now we've hit the techniques chapter, and we're going to go through some techniques, and we've got some very interesting people with us today. First, our mission from the Tampa Bay, Florida chapter is to bridge the gap between industry leaders and business analysis by building partnerships with professionals, educators, and employers so that we may empower, instruct, and engage the Tampa Bay IT community. Fortunately, the Tampa Bay chapter also helps everyone in the northern half of Florida, as well as anywhere else you live. If you're interested in becoming a member of our chapter, just let the IIBA know whenever you join the IIBA, and they will assign you to our chapter, and we are here to help you. We have a variety of ways for you to reach out to us. We have our website, Meetup, and Facebook, as well as 2 different ways in LinkedIn. And you can reach out to any of us to ask questions, get assistance, or mentorship. Our board members are Cliff. He is online now. He is our president. Lori is our treasurer. We have Caitlin and Priscilla as our board members at large. My name is Thea Tanner Raisins. I am the Vice President of Career and Professional Development, and occasionally my cohort in crime, Tiffany, will step in to help me lead the study group. Bob Churchill is our resident SME. He has passed his CBAP certification as well as a variety of other certifications and belts. He has a website, you'll see it here, and it has a wide wealth of good information that every intelligent person would be interested in my opinion, but it also helps business analysis and project management concepts come home and meld together very, very well. Let's get our attendance. Let's see, I know that I'm here. Bob is here, Cliff is here, and we have a new person, Sylvia. Sylvia, will you spell your last name for us?
L-A-C-K-M-A-N-N.
L-A-C-K.
M-A-N-N.
Thank you. You get credit for this. As you know, if you decide to take the certification test, you need to have a certain amount of study education points or hours, and this qualifies as an education hour because we have our resident CBAP here to tell us that's not going to be on the test, or the test isn't that hard, or he gives us the advice. We have our study group scheduled for Tuesdays. We have, let's see, today is the 8th. I haven't been moving my stars, have I? Today is the 8th. We have at least 2 more to go, and if we have people attending, we might go further. And our test scores, we're not doing the test questions today, but you see we worked our way through the study, through the BABOK, through test questions. But today we're going to switch gears, and we're going to, here, let me save this before I close it, because
hey, Tia,
I don't want.
Can you also add Ilya? Joined. Hey.
Thank you. Today we're going to on some techniques, and the first one we're going to work on is the business cases. Let me see if I've got it in my other window here. So I did a search for business case templates, realizing that almost every company has their own version of an official business case. And what I found is there are a huge variety of business case templates out there. They have basically the same things. I want you to just be sure that they have these things in them. They want you to identify the problem you're solving, talk about alternate solutions in brief, identify the ideal solution and why it's the ideal solution, create the executive summary for your project, which will be nothing more than a very high level explanation of here's the problem, here's what we expect to happen if we don't do anything, either ever for 6 months or for 3 months, and then here's what we want to happen. In what you want to happen, you're going to identify the details, resources you need for that project, outline the scope. It's going to take 6 months to implement this. It's going to take this much in manpower. That's going to take this equipment. Here's the providers that we found, and create your timeline for implementation and completion. They will expect you to stick to that, even though it's an estimate. So make it as realistic as possible, which means your estimate plus 20%. And then specify the project's organization. If you can line your business case up with goals for the company, the company values or the goals for the year, you're going to be much better off in getting it approved for funding. But this is just the basics. Let me quickly run through the business case that's in, well, I thought I had it here. Let me jump over here. Maybe I have it. Let me run through the business case that is in the BABOK so we can see what they say is important. Sorry, guys. I had too many things open, I guess. Let me jump up here. Good, here it is. So according to the BABOK and the test questions, we'll ask you to remember these definitions. Business case provides justification for a course of action based on the benefits to be realized by using the proposed solution as compared to the cost, effort, and other considerations, and to live within that solution. So it basically defines the need, determines the desired outcome, talks about the constraints, assumptions, and risk, and then recommends a solution. Whenever you are creating a business case, it's important that you do the same kind of marketing to get backing and buy-in that you would for any change management. You need to know what the people that are going to read the business case want as far as the detail, the level of detail, and what's important to them. For instance, if they are executives and they don't want any detail, they just want the bottom line, make it short, or they won't read it. You won't get it approved. If they are super analytical and super detailed and that's what they want, you got to speak their language. Also, whenever you're gathering your information, you need to be sure that you don't have anyone else in the organization that are doing something that's going to be counterproductive to your business case, that you're crossing all your possible events that are going to happen, say within the next 2 years. My business case isn't going to get nullified by somebody else's project or whatever. According to the BABOK, the needs assessment and the desired outcomes are very important. The needs assessment is the driver for the business case. The desired outcome is the state that would result if you got the business case fulfilled. Very often as a business analyst, it's our job to give recommendations. Occasionally as a business analyst, if you provide a business case, you become the project manager for that business case as well. So be aware that that's a possibility. If it's the direction you want to go for it. Whenever you talk about the alternatives to the solution that you're proposing, you need to talk about what would be the pros and cons of each and try to keep it all at the same level of granularity, talking apples to apples. If there's any legal or regulatory ramifications to any of this, you need to have that included because it's your job as a business analyst to have done the research. The scope, feasibility, assumption, risk, and constraints, and financial analysis and value assessment all need to be part of the business case. I would like to say that the scope needs to not only include what is involved, but what is not involved. So it's in scope and out of scope. You also need to identify whenever you're talking about what future state will be if the business case were implemented. You need to talk about what will the future look like? What does done look like? And give people a visual image of the situation if at all possible. That would be part of your recommended solution. In the BABOK, they're going to ask questions about in the BABOK test, they'll ask questions about usage considerations, your strengths and limitations. This is really important. Your strengths provide an amalgamation of the complex facts, issues, and analysis required to make the decisions regarding change, provides a detailed financial analysis of cost and benefit, provides guidance for ongoing decision-making throughout the initiative. Your limitations, your business case may be subject to the biases of the authors, which in this case probably is you. So you need to be sure that you're not putting a slant on the information. Limitation frequently not updated once funding or the initiatives are secured. So you need to go back and revisit it periodically to see, are there any changes upcoming, even after it's approved. And then it may contain assumptions regarding costs and benefits that may prove invalid upon further investigation. That's the idea that you haven't done thorough investigation. Business cases are like the preliminary, and sometimes people say, we'll put 10 hours of effort into it. You have to put as much effort into it as is appropriate for your business case and your company and your situation, and based upon exactly who's going to be reviewing, approving, and tracking the results of the business case. That's what I have for business case. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, so I have a question. Like in my company, my experiences, the focus on the business case is done by the business objective and the opportunities, like the productivity or any financial gains the company can get. And I mean, sometimes the solution, high level, let's say solution is there, like they're more like from business requirement point of view, not the solution requirement, but the business requirement. And then the costs may be like attached after that. So as I understood, like in because based on that business case, you starting to develop like more detailed requirements, and then you providing the costs high level, but then detailed. But is the focus like more on understanding costs versus benefits, or is it more like benefits or value, which company will get from that solution? I don't know. For me, Thea, you're breaking up.
Cutting out a little bit. You said it's focus understanding the cost versus benefit. What?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm breaking up.
Okay, let me rejoin.
Okay.
Let me rejoin.
The business case, the cost versus benefits. What did you say after that?
Leah dropped off. I'm thinking he'll come back.
Am I breaking up as well, Bob? Good.
Hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you better, but I think the problem we're all experiencing. Go ahead and ask your question again.
Okay, I will try. So my question is, I'm hearing echo everywhere. So is the business case mostly focused on the both costs and benefits, or more like on the benefits side, like understanding what it will really bring for the company and the productivity?
Bob, what do you think about that?
Oh, it's everyone is cost and benefit, right? So it's the net you're ultimately concerned about.
I would say, Ilya, that this is your opportunity to, this is your method for convincing someone to go with your idea. And to do that, you explain to them the cost and benefits. Because honestly, if you get to the place where you decide that the benefits are not worth the cost, you're not going to pursue it yourself, much less ask someone else to. But if you have a good solid business case and you can say, this is the best option, this is the best strategy, pursue it. Does that make sense? Can you understand me?
Yes, yes, that makes sense.
Okay, good, good. All right, Bob, which one are we doing next?
What was that?
Which one are you going to do next?
Me, I will do process analysis and modeling for section 34 and 35. Let me take over these.
Okay, please go ahead.
If you can stop screen sharing so I can start.
Okay. Okay, now I figured out how to use the tool. Thank you. And next, Ilya will do backlog management.
Yes, guys, but
So
you're breaking up for me, and I can hear my echo. I don't know, like tried to rejoin. It's just me or someone else. I don't know.
you know, I'm not hearing an echo from you, and I'm hearing your with no breaking up from you. So I think you probably can present better than we can. Let's let Bob do interface analysis, and then you can do yours, okay?
Okay, sure.
I am doing process analysis and process modeling. Can you see that?
I can see interface analysis.
All right, I changed the screen.
It hasn't moved yet.
Great. Hang on.
The interface analysis page.
You want to start with interface analysis?
Nope.
Oh,
Okay.
How about now?
Yes, now I can see process analysis and process modeling.
Okay, so I have spent my entire career essentially as a process analyst, mostly doing computer simulation. So I think of process analysis and process modeling as two aspects of the two sides of the same coin. They're always intertwined. The way the BABOK defines it in 1035 is process modeling is the process of creating and maintaining a model, which is just a representation of the operations that are currently happening and or the operations you wish to create from scratch. Once you have that, then you can use process analysis to figure out how you're going to change and or hopefully improve or expand this process in some way. I never think about doing a process model without doing analysis, and you cannot do analysis without having a model. That said, there are a handful of situations that are legitimate where you might create a model and not do analysis as such. And those are just documentation, so you know what's going on. You have a formal definition of the situation extent. Also communication for common understanding and situational awareness, so everyone has is on the same sheet of music, and also for doing configuration management, so you can see that things are running the way you want to. Now, I have actually given numerous presentations on this. I developed a framework for doing business analysis that is based on my 30 years of experience doing computer simulation, process analysis, process engineering, and process design and improvement in a whole bunch of industries. And basically, I have an iterative 6-phase framework that corresponds to what's in the BABOK, but it's expressed a different way, and it's kind of sequential. So I start off with the intended use, which is the description of the problem. Then I figure out I have phase 2 is the conceptual model, and that is really corresponds to what the BABOK calls process modeling as an explicit technique. When you do this, you perform discovery to find out what's in the process, what happens in the process, what stations, operations, actions, activities, materials, decisions, and people are in the process and manipulated by the process. And once you understand that, then you do a process of data collection to characterize every aspect of the process, both qualitatively and quantitatively. Once you have a solid understanding of that, and you get there by iterating, documenting your findings, and having the relevant SMEs, team members, executives, and so on reviewing until you get buy-in. Everyone says, yeah, you got that right. Your understanding is complete and correct. Then you can move on. The analysis would be done in phases 3 or 4, which is requirements and design. And there were a ton of techniques for doing this. A big one in analysis, that's my personal favorite, is simulation. Like I said, I've been doing that forever in many different contexts. The other two are Lean and Six Sigma, with Lean or Six Sigma being mostly about reducing variation, so you reduce waste, things that are outside of spec, and hopefully that improves quality. And then Lean is about rearranging or substituting elements of the existing process to essentially do the same with less, or more with the same, or ideally more with less. So Lean and Six Sigma are different. Within those, there are an infinite number of techniques for doing analysis and improvement and optimization. It's as much an art as it is a science. There are a few rote things you can do to a process, but fundamentally there's no set of steps you can go through that'll get you an optimal outcome for every situation, or really any situation. When you're doing the model, it typically has these kinds of elements in it. That's from my understanding. There are interfaces in here too. I'll talk about that as another technique. You can find this article with links to other articles on my blog at rpchurchill.com in the blog. And it's the most recent one for today, which is February 8th, 2022. So that's all I have to say about that for now. The book will talk about other aspects of it, but that's my overview of how I think about it, colored by the BABOK's actual differentiation between the two.
Very
And
good.
I will unshare.
Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Hello. Sorry, I do question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I was thanks, Bob, for this presentation. I was also searching, and like each company has, I think, its own way of representing the process flow or business flows. In your vast experience, and it's not only to Bob, like everyone question, like do you specifically stick to some notation like business process modeling notation, BPMN, or UML, or flow chart, or like flow diagrams? Is there any specific notation which you're using, and which in your experience was like mostly usable and popular?
Well, it can vary. Basically, any tool that successfully communicates the current and or future states is totally fine. As long as everyone agrees, everyone understands it, and everyone comes to a similar understanding ultimately. That's the point. There are a number of tools. You mentioned some BPM and UML. They're all about different ways of representing processes, and they have their strengths and weaknesses for every situation. In some of the presentations I give, I show pictures of process models I've created in the drawings and the techniques within those, and the representations are different for many different industries. Sometimes I do process and instrumentation diagrams for, say, pulping systems or fluid systems in nuclear power plants. Sometimes they are flow charts for operations in a steel mill. They can be architecture diagrams. They can be maps of land border crossing and every place vehicles and pedestrians and bicycles and buses and all kinds of other things can go. So what they all have in common is that one diagram I showed you that has inputs, outputs, parking lots, which are basically bags. They all have queues, they all have stations, which are operations. They all have groups of stations, which you might call a plaza or an overarching optimization or operation. And so it's whatever mode of representation works for a given system. For a software system, you might use a flow chart and flow diagram and different things. So it's always appropriate to the situation at hand.
Did that answer your question, Ilya?
Yeah, yep, thanks. Basically, rule of thumb is pick up whatever is more understandable for your stakeholders, right? And based on the context where you're in. Because once I did by the book, the diagram, nobody will understand, like especially they don't know that particular notation. But then the other day I will draw some people, something like very like for the kids, and that was very clear, right? So I think that's the key.
I think my favorite tool to use is Visio, and I adore swim lane diagrams because it shows what that person's job is, and it's kind of a time-based linear process.
Yeah,
but
I
using
like swim lanes too. Yep.
Yeah, and can show how systems interact. It helps to see how systems interact with users. The swim lanes,
Absolutely.
I like those too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Okay.
You know, it's funny.
Go ahead, Bob.
I was gonna say some of the presentations I give, especially the simulationist guide to business analysis or framework or whatever. I have examples of process diagrams, and they're all industry standards. Or things individual companies have done, the possibilities are limitless. I like just standard Visio block diagrams and make out simple shapes and arrows, and everyone gets it.
I agree.
Can I say something?
Yes, Deborah, go ahead.
Yes, I want to say, yes, I agree with that the, with the diagramming, when you're talking about the tool, the swim lane or the type of diagram, I think it's important to, understand when I first start something, what I want to do is diagram everything. I make diagrams that I don't even show, they're very sketchy, like a sketch in the beginning, and then they evolve to where then I can share it with someone. But as far as the processes go, I appreciate, Bob, your background. I tend to, when I do requirements, I tend to always enjoy more the process requirements because it just seems like there's a path and there's a way to, always visually show a process, because people, your stakeholders and people that you're presenting to, they're visual, usually, and they don't want to read words. They want to see something that they can move their eyes. They can read and move their eyes. You know what I mean? So I think diagrams are a very important part of the process analysis. And I'm with you. I like the analysis part of it as well. I guess it's like the research part of me, but I'm happy to join this group. I really want to take my certification. So I'm motivated to, join and have discussion with you guys. So I appreciate it.
Well, you can join and have discussion with us without taking your certification. So just keep on going. Bob, you had something?
I was going to say a picture is worth 1,000 words and animation is worth 1,000 pictures. So have at it.
One of my favorite ways to show change is to show the process in swim lanes across the entire process, and people will say, I never knew what I did. I mean, I knew what I did, but I didn't know why I was doing it. And then they see where they are in the big picture and they realize they're a critical part. Their self-confidence and their job satisfaction goes up considerably. But then you show future state below that, and you can see the differences. And people can talk about it, and they go stand in, well, when we used to stand together, they would go stand in front of it to talk about, this is what we're talking about, and they wouldn't be confused. It wouldn't be this concept that floats around in the air in some meeting room, and they get to the solid matter of exactly what they're talking about, and there's no confusion, and I really appreciate that. Cliff, you had something you were saying? Like 5 minutes ago when we interrupted you?
Yeah, but I think I was breaking up. But it's funny. We're just had a project today where we had, and we're months into this project, and they're selling it to the business people. A little late to do that, but they're like, oh, it's too descriptive. There's too many words. And it was like, oh my God, we need to go back to kindergarten and put in pictures and make a little picture book for these executives to understand this stuff. And it's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, nobody wants to read anything. They want pictures. I just thought it was funny.
Send me your words. I'll turn them into swim lanes, and they will take them and eat them up.
I'm laughing too, Cliff, and you reminded me, like, always I'm hearing from top management, like they will start the call and they say, okay, explain me like to the 8-year-old kid. Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah, simplistic. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a lot
exactly.
of credit. I would say kindergarten, but that's me.
Okay, anything else about this topic? Okay, Ilya, if you'll share your screen, we'll see your presentation.
yes, sure.
And I'll look.
Sure. Yep. Let me try and do that.
And folks, if you're on the call and you're interested in taking one of the techniques for next week, or multiple techniques for the next couple of weeks, you're welcome to. We just ask that you read the section in the BABOK and give us what we need out of it. Okay, Ilya, take it away.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Can you hear me good? I know
We can
I
hear you
cannot.
well.
I started presentation. I can't go here in the presentation mode, but hope you guys can see my slides.
I can see it just fine.
Yep. So I have like two things in agenda: backlog management, the acceptance and evaluation criteria. And I want to start from the backlog management first, because to me it's like more high level thing, and then go to acceptance evaluation criteria, if you're okay with that.
Okay.
So
Yes.
will share like not what's in the BABOK, like we can all read what's in the BABOK. A couple of phrases of definitions, I took it from there, but I will explain how we're doing and the company we're working. And my personal, I think it's also a good way to think that way and manage the backlog that way. So to me, the backlog management actually starts not from the backlog management, but from the mission and vision of the company, which I think every business analyst and actually every employee, even developer, should know. Then goes to strategy, which is also defined on a corporate level and should be clearly communicated, clearly understandable for the business analyst. Then is translated to the roadmap, like with the help of the product owners, whoever business people. And then it's translated, only after that, it's translated to product backlog. And in our cases, we're doing Scrum, we're using Scrum, but we're also kind of combining it. So it's kind of a scaled agile in a certain way. So we have increments, we're planning increments. Our increment is 1 quarter, 6 sprints. And basically the increments would be resulting in a shippable product, right? Each increment would be an increment to the product. If talking about the purpose of the backlog management, it's what's said in the BABOK. It's record, track, and prioritize the remaining work items. But again, to me, it's starting from here. And I put it like here, it's more like the vision will be the basis, right? All those are the basis, like a foundation. The roadmap should be, I think, from 1 to 3 years. Again, if that's mature company that maybe can plan for 3 years, 1 year, and then sprints, and then product sprints, and then product increments. And I put here like 2 arrows up and down, meaning that's communication and refinement should be happening all the time. It's not like it's strategy defined and then we're not returning anything back to our top management. If we see that whatever they put together, like once you start implementing, doesn't really make sense, we should go back to the business, go back to the higher level, and give that feedback loop. Obviously, that they always expecting that feedback loop. In fact, just people are shy to share it. They always expect, and it's great. And in fact, I have several examples when the developers even come up with the feature, which was saved like thousands of dollars, and like the top management never thought about this, right? Because we're closer to the field, we're closer to the users, customers, and then we can more think from the user perspective. So to me, that's a backlog management. And this slide is more talks about that sprints and the product increment. So your backlog management is basically the list of the items. It can be, I'll go back here. So it can be user stories, in our case, user stories. In BABOK said use cases, functional and functional requirements, defects, even documentation, anything which will bring the value to the product, right? And in the end, I personally think it shouldn't be all the garbage should be there. It should be only things which will support the project or will contribute to the project and will bring some value, and not just like you putting all the trash, like all everything. So it should be already like predefined to have pre-refined to have some value to the business, to the stakeholders. And yeah, that's I think I already explained. I mean, that's based on the sprints. You kind of are creating your product, your shippable increment, and how we're doing this. Again, it's not that like by the book you have sprint or 2 sprints, and then you have release, and then you have again. I don't know if you can see that. We trying to plan product increments, but our releases also not always. By the end of each sprint or each increment, there are certain things like UAT deployment, UAT execution, regression, production deployment. So all those things happening, and to me, it should be part like of the backlog management or complement the backlog management, right? Because based on that, you can plan your sprints. Here, I just took a snapshot from some of the backlog of my products, and you can see here the backlog items, but you can also see the sprints. So we're trying to plan those sprints ahead, and the management not just shifting. It's one of the tasks, prioritizing things in the backlog, but also like planning ahead, several sprints ahead. That's at least what we do, because we trying to understand like which features will go where and when do we need to start, when do we need to finish. So from one side, it's agile. From the other side, it's also kind of a project plan for us. Any questions on backlog management? I can switch to acceptance evaluation criteria.
I just wanna know-
Can you talk a minute about prioritizing the backlog?
Yeah, so prioritization is happening together with a product owner, obviously. So we have a product owners. Me being as a Scrum Master or business analyst, I'm also participating. And in my case, I have vast experience in that product. So I have like, I witnessed 2 or 3 or 4 product owners changing, and I'm still there. So sometimes I was teaching them like where we should focus first. But in the classical example, it should be product owner together with a team, right? With a technical lead, with the architect trying to prioritize the items. So product owner looks from the point of view of business need, the technical lead or development senior developers, they're looking at from the code refactoring point of view, from sustainability, like system requirements, some non-functional requirements, which business always missing them. So that's why it's a cooperation. It's not only product owner, but it's a cooperation of product owner and technical and tech team. In my case, it's a tech lead who is always engaged and can tell, like, let's put this feature aside, let's move it down the road, but we need, like, say, do this code refactoring or optimize something, optimize queries, because otherwise that your feature you're planning will not work. And again, it's a part of the, depending on organization, we have like architectural reviews, so architectural roadmap or runaway. So all our things we're developing should fit like a puzzle in the bigger platform. That's why in our case, it's important to align the architecturally what are we building. So at the same time, we're evolving. It's not like super rigid, but at the same time, we want to give this guidelines to the to the tech team to develop that way to make the solution scalable, flexible, and so on.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any questions about backlog management?
No,
We're
Ilya,
very-
but I noticed you have dbeaver on your computer. You an Oracle SQL guy, or?
Oh, this one. No, I'm not the SQL guy, but
I just recognized it. That's all.
I'm looking. I mean, sometimes I'm logging those. I mean, we have mobile solutions which use SQLite, or sometimes logging DB, just looking at the data there. Yeah. Some simple queries.
Very good. Okay, let's move on into your next one. Acceptance and evaluation criteria.
Yes. So as in the BABOK, it said acceptance criteria represents the minimum, I even emphasize that, minimum set of requirements that must be met in order for a particular solution to be worth implementing. I agree with that absolutely, because you cannot physically put all of the acceptance criteria in your user story, because it's just infeasible, and sometimes like we will spend a lot of time for things which are not important possibly. So what we tend to do, I tend to do, I putting the acceptance criteria, of course, based on the requirements from the business, and again, we're validating them together with the product owner, tech leads. So we would we'll focus on the happy path, and then maybe 1 or 2 maximum alternative paths. So like unhappy scenarios, but no more than that. And then give that to the developers. And usually when they start developing, they have a lot of additional questions, additional things, and they like would add to those acceptance criteria their own like system acceptance criteria, which eventually each of the acceptance criteria should be testable, right? That's the goal. If you create a story, and then each story in our case is touched. The finishing point of the story is when the developer developed and tested and added test cases or evidence. So it will be a unit test case for each of the acceptance criteria. And here comes the evaluation criteria. The definition from the BABOK is that this is the find a set of measurements which will allow for ranking of the solution and alternative design according to their value for the stakeholders. To me, I would interpret it as like a cumulative value of the whys in the stories. So why you're doing this, and each story, why in each story can be translated, rolled up to the benefit in epic, like you would explain benefit, and then the epics, by the way, I didn't say like we have epics and we have initiatives. So like one increment for us is could be an initiative. Initiative could be a big one, like for the whole year. But epic is something we complete in 6 sprints. So, and then initiative can have some returns on investments or business case attached to that. So that way we can translate back and forth from the top level, from that business case and money associated productivity, to the single story where you can get like, I'm doing this to satisfy that particular need, to make that feature work, will bring that benefit, which will result in the bigger benefit in the epic, and then in the bigger benefit in the initiative. So, and always, even in my organization, always this is a lacking thing to that we're doing, that evaluating the stories. So the focus is mostly done on the acceptance criteria, like what are different scenarios, but nobody actually is, little people are evaluating if that satisfying of each of that case will actually bring the benefit. So I think it's a very important point in BABOK that those goes together, right? It's acceptance plus evaluation. They should go together. And there are a couple of examples how we're doing. It's could be given when then. It's from the Scrum framework or whatever, the extreme programming. I think that's where user story is coming from. Or if I do this, this happens. But basically, it's the scenarios which we're putting, like system should do this, and this is the expected result.
Very good.
That would be it.
All right. All right. We are at 53 after. Rather than starting another one, let me take the screen back. And
I say like 2 things.
Go ahead. And if anyone has any questions, go ahead.
Well, Ilya, those were great. I want to say about acceptance and evaluation criteria that when I studied total quality management, they define quality as meeting defined requirements. So whatever your requirement was, if you meet it, that's quality. So you have to have some set of requirements or evaluation criteria, and they can be whatever really is appropriate to the situation. And that can be, you have to have these things done. They have to meet certain numerical thresholds. However, all that's great. The other thing, and I'll share my screen again, is so when you talk about backlog, I had these 6 phases in my model. So again, it's intended use or figure out what the problem is: conceptual, model, requirements, design, implementation, and test. So the backlog is actually appropriate to an ongoing Agile or Scrum kind of implementation. And there's a continual input into the BABOK, which is continually revisiting the problem statement, the conceptual model as maybe the scope grows, and the actual requirements. And then you are continuously prioritizing those things. And here I'm talking about the second diagram down here. and pulling them off to actually do design, implementation, test, and delivery. So you're always grooming the backlog and prioritizing based on business need and internal development logic, what you need to support each deliverable. So that is, I see everything in the world is fitting into this framework. And what you described really matches this. So I'll shut up now.
I think you had a lot of good things to say there. Does anyone have any questions about either one of those two presentations? They were very clear, weren't they? Okay, let's jump over to the list of techniques that we have left. Let me share this real quick. So if you see anything on this screen, I've got 3 screens. So if you see anything on this screen that you're interested in doing a presentation on, call out. I'll put your name on there, and if you want to give me a day, we'll do that.
We are not seeing.
Sorry.
There we go.
I'm hearing you very well. I think if you think that you're not being very clear, I'll put it down that way. And while you're thinking about techniques, I want to let you know that I did get Ilya, Cliff, Bob, Thea, Deborah, and Sylvia on as getting credit for today's class. So back to the list.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Scorecard, benchmark, and marketing analysis, brainstorming, business capability analysis, business model canvas, business rules analysis, collaborative games, concept modeling, data dictionary, data flow diagrams, data mining, data modeling. I did try to kind of grouping these. Decision analysis, decision modeling, document analysis, estimation, financial analysis, focus groups. Next page. Functional decomposition, glossary, interface analysis. I'm sorry, we did that one today. Interviews, item tracking, lessons learned, metrics and KPIs, mind mapping, non-functional requirements analysis. Observation was done today. Organizational model, prioritization, prototyping, reviews, risk analysis and management, roles and permissions matrix, root cause analysis, modeling, sequence diagrams, stakeholder lists, maps or personas, state modeling, survey and questionnaires, SWOT analysis, use cases and scenarios, user stories, vendor assessment, and workshops. Is there anybody that would like to take on any of those? If you feel like you got brave to volunteer, I'll take your name after the class if you want to send it to me through LinkedIn. We will be publishing these as on LinkedIn as far as join us on this date for these things. And if you want us to say that you're the one presenting because it gives you cred on the street, let us know and we'll be glad to include that as well.
Yeah, I would like to do one, but can I look at the list again? Can I see the list online?
This is actually in the BABOK in chapter 10.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, good. All right. I will look at it and email you. Yeah, I'd like to do one.
That's great. Send it to me through LinkedIn because I get so many emails from recruiters, I lose things.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn is kind of clear. Okay, so if anyone is looking for a position or knows of positions available, if you'll also send those to me through LinkedIn, it's my hobby to help people find jobs. I currently have a young man who is a software tester. He's done manual and automated testing. He's taken the classes. He's good at it. He needs his first job. So if y'all know of any opportunities for him, He's available for remote work. And if there's anybody here who is looking for a job, you can talk to me directly through LinkedIn and I'll do my best to help you. I do seriously get recruiters every single day. And they're not only looking for 30 years of experience like I have, they're looking for someone to fill a role. And I like to help people get networked. Okay, we are at the top of the hour. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me through LinkedIn as well. If you need mentoring, if you need advice, if you want your resume looked at, whatever. That's what I'm here for. That's the role I play in this board. Okay,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, it's been, yes.
Sorry, can you add me? I think I can do the user stories next time to finish the agile thing.
I would love for you to do user story.
Yep, thanks.
See, got it up here, let me copy. And you want to do next?
Yeah, next is fine.
Next week. Are you interested in doing use cases and scenarios at the same time? They're so similar.
I can do use cases as well. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right, and we'll put that for next week. Let's see, next week's going to be 2:15 after Valentine's. We're all going to be so loving to each other. Let me hear correctly. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, part of my commitment of respect to you is that I don't keep you past the time and I try to start on time. So here we are. Ilya, I report that and publicize it. Do you mind if I let people know you're the one that's going to be achieving for us?
Sorry, can you say it again? I know you were breaking up for me.
On LinkedIn, whenever I say this is what we're going to be studying next week, do you mind if I say you're going to be presenting?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed our conversation immensely, and I look forward to seeing y'all again next week. Y'all have a great week. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.